Eyes of Autonomy, Chapter 1, Author's Dedication. First, to Jesus. Thank you for giving me life and making me your creative and making me in your creative imagination. I pray that this book will bring you glory. Thank you for redeeming and loving me. I love you. And also to Dad. You taught me so much in life, and I am thankful for. Thank you for teaching me to imagine and help me learn how to read and write. Most importantly, thank you for the legacy of faith that you've passed down. Now, Chapter 1. I peer at the clock hanging above the sterile wall. I'm 15 minutes late to class. Oh well. I know I should care more. I've got a big test in this class, and I know I need to pass so they'll let me out of this prison, but it's hard to care about something you've failed so many times in the past. I walk gingerly towards the door and stare at the identification chip in my right shoulder for a moment. The government tells me that it's my identity. It's just a piece of metal with a blinking blue light under the skin, and I don't know what it does, but it's been there since I came to live in this place that the government calls the shielding. I was born here, I think, although I've never been told who my parents are, and when I've asked in the past, the Grand Masters have always said I'm a child of the state. I don't have any memory of outside the metal fence of the shielding, but that's never really bothered me. My identity is what the state says it is, and they say it's part of that blinking blue light under my collarbone. Come on, Piper. You're going to be late to the testing hangar again, and you know the rules about loitering in the hallways during class hours. The low, droning voice of the guard rushes me to the open door. Most of the shielding is indoors because the sun is so overbearing without the ozone. This is why we're only allowed to be outside for an hour in direct sunlight. But according to the state, the sun's more bearable in other parts of the country. We live in California, where the sun seems to abuse the dry earth constantly. Let me wrap my hands. I remove my white tape to protect my hands in sparring matches, and slowly cover up my wrist. Once wrapped, I shake my hands to see if the tape is tight enough before heading down the hall for my hand combat test in Hangar 4. The state had all the hangars connected by long, confusing hallways, well lit with white, blinding LED lights. The lights show the scuff marks on the white walls, and the lemon-scented cleaner never seems to fade. I'm expected to pass today. I passed my obedience test, the academic test, the gun defense test, and my loyalty to the state test, but this is my fifth attempt at the hand-to-hand combat test. If I pass, the state will let me graduate from being an operative against our capitalist enemies, the Texans. The shielding I live in was once a regional American airport, until it was converted by the Disaster Control Bureaucracy, or DCP for short, to a place for children of the state that became science experiments like myself. I sneak in the back, hoping Ross, the instructor, won't see me. I've known Ross for as long as I've known the shielding. We look about the same age, but he acts older. I think I'm about 17, but the state's never informed me of my actual age. He's easily a foot taller than me, with twice as much muscle mass. His square jaw and perfectly symmetrical face make him a natural leader. Although his blue eyes sometimes caught my attention, if there had ever been a kindling romance between us, it was stomped out by his overlording demeanor. "Oh, pray," Ross booms, crossing his arms. "You've been late to the class every day this week. I thought you would show some tact on test day. Drop and give me 20. I defiantly roll my eyes, but comply. Once I finish my 20 push-ups, I'm thrown into my first match of the day. It's a rare occasion today. A new, skinny, short girl is chosen to be my partner. The girl stands with her legs crossed and her hands behind her back. I stare directly at her, but she's content to gaze at the concrete floors. The girl's hair is wiry, and it doesn't flow down like the other girl's hair. It just sits directly on top of her head. Her posture is anything but combative. It's not a fair fight, but hey, I may pass this time. I'm Lily. She sticks out her hand, inviting a handshake, yet doesn't make eye contact with me. I'm Piper O'Prey. Just a friendly word of advice. We don't shake hands at the shielding. She bats her long eyelashes and nods dramatically. Ross blows the whistle, but my conscience won't let me fight. Lily seems to jerk back as Ross blows the whistle again. Her skinny hands quickly cover her ears. "Oh, pray, what's wrong?" He slinks to me. "This isn't arts and crafts. We're warming up." I can't fight her, she's too. I search for the words to depict the child's unusual helplessness. I've never met a human quite as weird. All her movements are jerky and predictable, unlike any fighter. Even with all my modifications, the state can't control that little voice in my head. That is the only thing I truly own, my thoughts. If you can't fight her, then fight me, Ross says. All right, I moan, putting my hands up. He's defeated me so often in the past, I know it won't be much of a fight. I throw the first punch, and he blocks it with his shoulder. Then I step back, and he steps in for an uppercut. I allow the uppercut to clip my jaw, so I can get a clean shot with a round kick to the kidneys. My aim is dead on. Ross flinches back, but loses his footing, turning it into a ground fight. My back hits the ground with a thud, and Ross takes the opportunity to pin me to the mat. We both throw punches and elbows until Ross is flung off me. I maneuver to standing in disbelief to view a man who is a foot taller than Ross. Ross's face turns bright red at the sight of the man with jet black skin who bested him. Looks like there's another new kid at the shielding. Leave the girl alone. His chest rises and falls, with heavy and short breaths. You must be new here. I call the shots in my class. Ross staggers up from the floor. This is my brother, Azariah, Lily says, putting her hands behind her back again. The pair is strange. I've never known siblings in the shielding, and we rarely get new students ever arriving here. I won't mess with your class, mister. He tugs Lily away. My throat feels swollen as I try to thank him, but thanking's a sign of vulnerability. Impulsively, I yell, I think we'll call you Az. He doesn't react to being addressed. He just disappears through the wide doors. Psh, back to work, Ross claps at the onlookers. I'll beat you one of these days, Ross. I half smile, stepping back into the ring. Don't joke with me right now, I pray. The Grandmaster's talking about reassigning you if you don't pass soon. Your problem is you never finish a fight. You give up just before you win every time. Reassigned. The Grandmaster doesn't throw that word around often. People who are reassigned never come back. It's the politically correct term for being killed because the state no longer needs you. Only the non-useful get reassigned because they're a waste of resources, and I can't be a waste of resources. I won't be late tomorrow, I blink. Ross reminds me not to sell myself short. I can beat anyone with my particular blade and gun defense skills. After all, that's what the disaster control bureaucracy genetically modified me for. I'm also modified with the ability to speak, understand, and write more than 100 languages. Every adolescent in this place was designed differently by the DCB to serve a unique purpose. They force us to live in a remote area of California because they claim that we're a threat to the well-being of the general population. I'm placed in the shielding until the state needs me for a mission against one of our great adversaries, either the communist empire in Europe or the capitalists that live in the country of Texas. I'm more likely to be sent to Texas, since relationships with the communist empire have greatly improved recently. All I must do is beat someone in a stupid fight with nothing but my hands. Class ends with an intensive workout. Then Ross mercifully dismisses us for the day. Detainees head to the mess hall in the main hangar, but I escape the humdrum and seclude myself to a scrapped single-engine airplane next to the electric fence. All the other planes have rusted away, but this little one outlived them all. The name on the side of the plane someone etched in reads, "Oh, pray." That's where I got my name. Ross gave it to me because I spend so much time out here trying to escape the madness of the cramped living quarters. The cockpit's quiet, and I have a stash of peanut butter that the guard snuck me underneath the pilot seat. I close my eyes and breathe in the sweet, salty aroma of the peanut butter before eating it with my index finger. Finding pleasure in anything's a rarity, so I savor each moment I'm allowed alone. I like to watch the grass sway in the wind. Even in winter, when everything beyond the fence is dead, everything out there seems more alive than in the shielding. When it's quiet, I like to imagine what it would be like to walk on it or touch it. Grass doesn't grow in the shielding. Nothing truly organic, not even the humans living in this concrete prison. I'm not alone long before Ross opens the door and slides into the co-pilot seat. You never eat in the mess. He sticks his finger in the peanut butter and licks it off. That's because I'm tired of you. Why are you here? I shake the jar of peanut butter at him, half joking. He plays with the controls on the dust-covered dashboard, changing the subject. How about the new guy? What a tool, right? Oh, you're just bitter. I lean my head into the chair and exhale slowly, feeling the peanut butter stick to the top of my mouth with my tongue. You don't you think it's weird that he and the new girl are related? How do they even know they're related? We're not even told our age. He shrugs, readjusting his dirty blonde locks. Do you ever wonder if you have family out there? No. I set the peanut butter down and bite my lip. Sometimes I think I remember my mother, but the thought always scatters before fully forming. I try to see it in the theater of the mind, a faint image of a woman with curly red hair that I think was my mother. Maybe it's all my imagination. Maybe I made it up. You, I ask? Sometimes I wonder. I know the government says we're children of the state, but we had to have parents, right? Who knows? We'll always be prisoners of this place until they need us for a mission, and even then, we'll never know. Ross doesn't say much after my comment. We know little of anything. We're not allowed to know what year it is. We learn in school that the United Socialists of America is our sole provider and family, and we're lectured extensively on the war with our communist and capitalist adversaries. My comrades and I are informed that the capitalist Americans, referred to by the strange name of Texans, are currently occupying a land called Texas, forming their own country. The instructor says that they're breeding like snakes under a rock, preparing to strike at the ankles of our society. The door opens to the plane for a second time. From the corner of my eye, I see a flash of blonde as vibrant as the rays of mid-morning sun. My roommate Gia squeezes into the cramped back seat of the plane. I thought I'd find you guys here. She bats her long eyelashes at Ross. Hey, Gia. Ross sighs without looking in her direction. Gia's skilled in engineering. Her intelligence makes her dangerous to the general society. She's not a fighter like me. Instead, she was modified to be beautiful and smart. Gia's emerald eyes had caught the attention of every boy in the shielding. Every boy, but Ross. Do you ever wonder about your parents? I ask her, passing the jar of peanut butter. Not really. The Grand Master's always been like our mom, and the new Grand Master's so much nicer than the old one. I like the old hag. She ran this place with structure, Ross interrupts. But you know, this kid who was reassigned to my calculus class told me one night that we were Texans, children who were stolen from our families when they lost the Civil War, about 10 years ago. And the next morning, he was gone. Her green eyes get huge as she stares at the grass. I like that guy. We called him Tim. I don't remember what his real name was. Then there's kids like Penelope. The girl is modified and fighting like you guys. The state lets her keep her memories because her parents died fighting for the state. Gia gazes at Ross, waiting for him to look at her. He doesn't. He looks at me with a little eye roll, and we both laugh. We aren't Texans, kids. I point to my collarbone where the chip is. It's all right here. We're children of the state, born and raised. I try to convince myself. But if the state was my sole provider, it seems rather peculiar that they would lethally inject me the moment that I'm no longer useful to them. I try not to question it too much, because curiosity is dangerous in the shielding. It doesn't matter where we came from. The state raised us, and we're her children. Ross glares at both of us before leaving the plane. He gets annoyingly serious. Be ready to fight and win tomorrow, or you'll be joining Tim. I want to remind him that he's the one who brought up the conversation in the first place, but he's too stubborn to care. Ross is right. Tomorrow may be my last chance to prove my utility to the state. I know I'm physically stronger than the rest, but am I mentally strong enough to beat someone when they're down?